if you can imagine this to be a ball, like a football, soccer football, or then you can see I spent a lot of time just figuring out how I could put the weight of the ball in my hand. Put the weight of the ball in my hand. Transfer the movement from one point across to the other. Yeah? So you can see that I haven't changed my pelvis even the slightest. Still the same movement. I just tie my hands to the movement differently. Yeah? Boop. Boop. Yeah. So when you got nothing else to do, in other words, when I first started my practice, I made an agreement that no matter if nobody came to the awareness through movement class, there would be a class. So I'd rent the space and I would begin, and if no one showed up, then I laid on the floor. I lid on the floor. I lateralated. I did whatever I did on the floor, and I gave myself a lesson. So that hour was spent. There's no one on my table, right? See, people do funny things. They think. So you ask them a question. Say, how many lessons would you like to give a week? Well, I'd like to give 20 lessons a week. That's a good number to give. 20 lessons a week at whatever you'll charge, $150 a lesson, or $200 a lesson, or whatever it is that you would. I know it, but I'm just lifting the bar. Yeah, because the value of your work is worth it. There are what is a really high level physical or a psychotherapist charge these days? $183.40 an hour. Yeah. So what's the top physical therapist being paid an hour? Same thing. A massage therapist. It's not covered anymore. It was covered at one point in time, but it was. Okay. So for healthcare providers, of which we're not considered to be healthcare providers. So anyway, so people think I want to have 20 hours of practice a week, and then you look at their lives and they're so filled with everything that they do that even if they had 20 hours, where would they get the 20 hours from? Now, I always thought that if I was going to have a practice of 20 hours a week, that I'd better practice for 20 hours. So that means that spend the time organizing my practice, spend the time organizing myself, spend the time, if I want 20 hours a week in practice, then I ought to see what it's like to have 20 hours a week of practice. It didn't make any difference if there was a person on the table or not. My 20 hours was being spent to develop myself so that I could have those 20 hours to eventually work for myself. Now I can come up with 100,000 excuses not to give those 20 hours. Right? I can make myself busy, but how am I going to put into my practice, my life, those 20 hours? Yeah, so that's something to consider as you're thinking about developing a practice. Yeah. All right. So this is what I would do. Until it just became pretty simple for me. So any kind of round ball that you would like to play with will work. All right. Yeah. Now, of course, well, what difference is it? What is it? What difference is it? I've been watching your bowlers. So all the things that they do to prepare themselves, and yeah, I know I have to rub my groin with the with abrasive material. Okay. Yeah, I don't. Can someone tell me what they're trying to do with the ball when they?
That's cheating. Your eyes referring to a cheating incident that happened earlier this year.
How does so? Oh, yeah. That's so it changes the flight dynamics of the ball. Yeah, because we have that in the United States with our pitching too. The subtle ability to put pine tar on the ball to increase the grip, to increase the rotation, or to scuff the ball, which changes the dynamics of the ball and the ability of the ball to spin and things like that. Yeah, well, spit, pine tar. Usually pine tar can be, invisible pine tar or Vaseline or something that can't be seen. And yeah, terrible. All right, come around. Where's my? You come back again. All right. So we looked at side bending, didn't we? We looked at side bending. We looked at it from 2 points of view, from the mastoid process, and you see, and then the difference, not supporting at the back of the head, but actually bringing your hand way, way under, so that you're sitting here and supporting person's head, okay? So now we're going to look at rolling. Now, if I want to roll a person's head, I can come behind the mastoid process and behind the mastoid process, and I can begin to lift, and I can touch behind the mastoid process. And just with the movement of my fingertip, I can invite to see the ease with which a person rolls. Normally we do this from here, don't we? Yeah? So oftentimes we do it with, but again, I have to make, the question is whether I do this with my arm or whether this comes out of my pelvis. Yeah? So this movement comes out of my pelvis. So I have 3 ways. I can come under the mastoid process, then under the mastoid process, or sometimes if I want to work, then I might come from with my right hand on the outside holding to roll a person. Yeah, supporting them and rolling. And I can do this and make small changes with my hand, find a different point of purchase and roll. And if I really get eventually really good at this, my hands just find out where to be in both places. Okay, rolling and rolling. Now, it's very interesting. Maybe it's me, maybe it's her, I don't know for sure. But if I roll her here, she goes there. If I roll her here, same. Is that the same? Here, the angle is much steeper to go towards her shoulder. This angle, as I roll her across here, right, on this side, you can see it rolls back, down, deeper, and towards her shoulder. This one, as she rolls across, she comes across her head, across her skull, and at this point in time, it's almost like she's ready to go up there, down there, up there, down there. It's just something that we can note. Does she go that way or does she go this way? I don't know. We play with all the elements that we can determine. Okay? 3 ways to play with rolling. Under the mastoid process, which means, behind the mastoid process. I lost my orientation for a moment. I was oriented to the room rather than to her. what's behind and forward, okay? Rolling, rolling. Now, for a moment, if you want to, you can find, after you roll, where to put your hands that you could support the person and have them roll a little bit, and then change hands and roll a little bit. I might need to do something here and here, mightn't I? I might need to do something with my hand so that I can hold her, touch her chest and move, touch her ribs and move. For me, I'm lucky enough, oftentimes I can do something that exactly. Okay, so if you want to play for a little moment and just experiment for a moment, yeah. Just ways in which your hands can find the ways of coordinating together. Yeah. This support is resting at the occipital area. It has a small bit of traction in it so that I'm not compressing her. Does that make sense? All right, so just a little bit of traction so I'm not compressing her. So you can roll and put one hand, you can roll and put the other hand. Yeah, okay. Just a few moments again, please.